Hey everybody, welcome to the Nexus Ag Update. I'm Brady.
And I'm Chad.
And today we have Lee Parker and Matt Katcher with our Nexus Energy Team. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, doing well.
You guys want to do a little introduction of who you are with Nexus and kind of your specialties?
Happy. Matt, kick it off.
Matt Katcher. I got about 18 to 20 years with the company between full-time, part-time. Been pretty much in the energy department the entire time. And I guess my specialty is energy sales currently.
Yeah, I'm Lee Parker. I got over here in Northeast Iowa in November of 22. Actually, it was June of 22. Sorry about that. Started with Viafield to oversee their energy division. Had the opportunity to transition into Nexus, and I've been in the energy business for, since 1989, I think, which will show you that there's no hair under this hat.
I was going to say, he made a Cronkite joke earlier.
Yes,
so,
he did.
Yeah,
he's like, hey, Walter Cronkite? No.
I can't remember the moon landing. That's one thing I've got going for me. But I've been all over the Midwest, mostly with cooperatives, a little bit with some independents, both wholesale, retail. Just love working in the energy field with end users, ag producers, rural communities, stuff like that.
Cool.
But, yeah, it's been a good time.
Well, and this energy thing is a little new to us. Brady and I, on our side, we've never had energy. In fact, we were kind of putting together what we wanted to talk about today, and Brady made a comment to me. He's like, "Holy moly, how much do you know about energy?" I'm like, actually, none. Matt and Lee were kind of putting some notes or something on some things we wanted to kind of discuss today. So
yeah, thank you for being so interactive with our show prep notes here. I just assumed that Chad was just savant in energy, and
I'm not.
I never knew it. I don't know why we're not exploiting it more, but
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not.
Okay.
I know some people in the industry, but I don't know anything about it.
So I want to ask you about our position with energy tomorrow, right? We'll direct that to you too.
By the time we're done today, you'll be able to give anything you want to hear about energy.
That is a little
dangerous. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You want to jump right in here, Chad?
Yeah. So, I mean, we wanted to, this is the first time we've talked energy on this podcast, before, after, whatnot, but let's just talk about who makes that up, or that division up for Nexus.
Yeah, we've got a group of wonderful people that make the Nexus Energy division up. Starts with, of course, we can go around in different segments, but the delivery team, we have in-house LP delivery drivers. Matt will talk a little bit about how the fuel gets delivered later, but we've got a great group that has really come together, works as one, supports each other, which is a lot of fun to watch. Currently we have 4 drivers with an opening out there for a 5th to expand into our new territory. Then we have 2 energy salesmen, Matt being one of those, and Eric Stout being his counterpart in sales. Again, 2 great individuals that really are passionate about what they do and the team. But all in all, I would say our Nexus Energy division is all of Nexus. I know there's folks within Nexus today that aren't aware of what all we do, but we've had a lot of fun and a lot of success introducing that to the internal folks. Mm-hmm. And those guys and gals have represented us very well in the country, as to speak. So it's a fun time.
Well, and for us, I mean, once a week, the sales staff gets together and kind of has a market update for everything: grain, chemistry, fertilizer, energy. And I get a lot out of everybody at that point. I mean, listen to you, listen to Mark, Phil in the past on our side, on the fertilizer side. I mean, honestly, it's kind of nice to know some of those things, because it's like, well, this is what we're seeing out there on the market here, and we see this trend starting kind of, it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to start thinking about locking in some things or looking at that.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think a good play off from that is, going off from what Lee said, it takes a whole team. It takes a large group of us to do it. I mean, you can't be in 180 square miles at once, right?
Yeah.
So, we've had great success, and I know Lee and I have been pretty selfish in saying that it's been a really good mesh for us in the energy department to expand into your guys' neck of the woods, and had some great success already talking to the customer base up there, and it's really fun for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of those weekly calls are kind of fun for me too. Sometimes it's you think everything's happening so fast, and you're a week later and you realize you don't have anything new to say, and then you go a week and you don't know how to get it all crammed into 20 minutes of everything that's happened. So
right.
But just trying to connect. There's still a lot out there with energy, trying to connect the world energy, the domestic energy back to our our producers is it's a full-time job. I mean, it's just one of those things. Our producers are always just thinking, what's it cost and how do I get it cheaper?
Right.
And there's just so much more to it than that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we have you to help facilitate that, because I don't know that.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, and it's been nice being able to get with you guys and work with the whole entire team, because you kind of bring that relationship drive to the customer base. Like Lee was talking about earlier, you're worried about the relationship and the business as a whole, not necessarily, you talked about grain and fertilizer and chemistry. We want to be able to go out and talk to the customer and really, help drive to the bottom line.
Well, and sometimes we all kind of get stuck in our own silos.
Yep.
Where one thing I will say, like Jason and Derek, they want us to be out there as a team, not just me and Brady talking to a customer on agronomy or some of the younger guys or the associates that, hey, let's get their feet under them. It's like, no, go out, talk to what the feed guys are.
I love doing that.
While
It's
we're
fun.
sitting here before this thing started, Lee and I were kind of like, well, you're going out to talk to him. I'll tag along.
It's awesome. I love it, because then, you get questions and you're like, I don't know. I can find out for it. Oh, you get questions. I got Chad right here. He's the savant,
it's
savant
nice.
in energy, like he made himself out to be.
Yeah.
So it's nice to do that. Just to know we got a support team.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's fun, and again, representing all of Nexus is, even when we go to the locations and, well, what do you do? Well, I'm an energy. Oh, you are. What's that mean? And so it's just educating each other within our organization, and then the customers everybody interacts with, whether it's at the dump pits or at the counter. So, and we always leave a customer site thinking, man, I wish, did I actually pay attention to that they had a agronomy tender out there with somebody else's logo on it or not? So we're not perfect at that either, but we're trying to get better.
Yeah. You want to kind of go on the products and services that we offer as Nexus?
Sure, happy to. I'll kick it off with the propane side of things. We have propane's one of our deals that we're expanding on. So we've got propane today with our infrastructure to cover any Nexus customer or anybody else's customer for that matter, that would be in the state of Iowa. We feel like we can reach the borders pretty much to the Wisconsin border, the Minnesota border, all in this northeast corner.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited. We're running as far west over to Burt, Blue Earth, some of those areas way the heck over there, and then running back all the way into the Prairie Sheen area. So that's our footprint today. The difference about propane compared to our other products is we need plants and infrastructure and trucks.
Right. You need storage.
Yeah, we need storage, we need supply, we need carriers, all that stuff. But you can't just drive 180 miles and expect to be any good at it and then go compete. So that's our propane footprint today. We are, before I let go of the propane side, though, we are working or building some plans to move into where the rest of our members are and to get into that Minnesota territory.
Yeah, we're talking north.
We're going, going north. And so we're trying to build a plan over the next 2 or 3 years to be able to serve those members, whether it's with partnerships or whether it's investing in infrastructure or what. But we don't want to really leave anybody within the realm of Nexus or that knows Nexus unserved.
Very confident we can get to the border, no problem. It's just after that, it might take a conversation or some creativity logistics-wise to at least start off with and then go from there.
Well, and you're not, with LP too, you're also talking non-ag as well. I mean, that actually is something that, we don't talk about at all, because it's like we're always working with farmers.
Sure.
I was about to say, I buy LP for my house, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's not something I think about.
Residential, commercial, or even back to a lot of folks, and not the last few years anyway, and sort subject for us in the energy department, but not even just grain drying, livestock and that sort of stuff. So.
So
that's the propane piece. I'll let Matt pick up on the rest of them. He's a subject matter expert on that today.
You got to get a word like savant over there.
He's not on Chad's level yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
It's a goal.
We should have did like a keyword thing today. Count how many times you say that word. And
Chris might put a counter if he's good enough.
Ding, 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 ding. So the diesel fuel side of it, we've been very fortunate to be able to be very versatile in it. Everything from commercial transport or even ag transport loads down to, we do deliver some residential fuel yet, not much. That's kind of going away as an industry trend in general. But really in the meat and potatoes and the relationship portion of it we like is getting into your normal crop rotation and livestock farming. And we feel like we're set up really well for that. We do partner with CHS Cenex, and we have a program called AFD. It stands for Automated Fuel Delivery. That is kind of a a subject matter all for maybe a whole nother podcast kind of thing. So I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on it, but it's very driven towards the customer. It can be molded in a lot of different ways, but the goal of it is to make fuel, what do you want to say, less of an issue for the customer to
easy. Make it easy.
Make it easy.
Yeah. Yep. So that's your monitoring thing you put on.
Correct.
So I don't have to go out there and say, man, I'm running low. Get out here.
Yep.
Matt already knows that I'm already halfway 2 weeks before I even realized I'm at halfway.
Yeah. And even years back, we realized that the customer doesn't want to give up that relationship that they have, with the driver, know, quote unquote, back in that day. That was.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was 90% of it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you still have Eric and I. That's the relationship piece is still there. But it also frees us up to worry more about marketing, to help out with, storage right sizing, and maybe even start bleeding into some other stuff like working on diesel exhaust fluid and lubricants and different things like that. Instead of being one track minded, like you said earlier, kind of get stuck in your silo.
Yep.
We realized early on in the AFD process that it allowed us to get out of our silo, even within our division, and be able to expand and really drive more back to the customer in the energy world.
It's funny you mentioned about the whole delivery thing with LP. I see it on my end for any of our starter or seed deliveries. It's like, oh, I got Luke helping me out. And he's like, yeah, Luke knows where to go, and my customers are comfortable with him. And I mean, it's like it's that back and forth. It's not only like he's an extension of me, but at the same time that I'm an extension of him, and people look at him like, he's there to sell it just as much as I am. And that's awesome. I love it. I love that there's that confidence in people that we work with.
And we get into that sometimes too. Even though the delivery drivers hauling the diesel and the gas out to the end users aren't Nexus employees, there's still people we talk to every day.
100%.
There's only a small number of them that we all know very well. We know their families, so they are an extension of us. They just wear maybe a different logo on their shirt, but they are in it to take care of our customers.
And they're all very, very, long-yeared in the business too. I mean, actually, just a year and a half or so ago, we had 3 guys retire, and they all had over 40 some years of experience, and they were all still driving those trucks. And then the next guys up the gate right now are all in that 20 some range. So very good at what they do, and very happy to see the customers and still drive the same way.
But like systems like that's awesome to be able to, instead of stopping at a guy's place and it like the way we used to do it, where it's like, oh, we're driving by there, maybe I should check and see how many gallons he's got in the tank or something. The amount of time that and to stop the truck, go out and look at that, and come back and look at all the time we were wasting.
Well, and even just for us though too. I mean, our customers are really starting to do more with less as well.
Yes,
right. I mean, you guys see that in your side of the business, and so for what used to take me 4 or 5 phone calls to a guy, hey, do you need fuel? Oh, heck, I don't know. Let me check. Call it back. Call his son. Call his daughter. Call the neighbor. And do those things, or just like you guys said, blindly driving in the driveway and taking care of it, which does have a customer service merit to a certain extent. Yes, it does. But in our opinion, what we like to try to press back to the customer is that if it's already taken care of, and then we can just have a conversation based off from how to market your stuff, and that you have the peace of mind of having the diesel fuel there when you pull in it after dark and pushing before a rainstorm. It's
nice because it's like you pull up to the local Quick Trip. It's like, I know for a fact Quick Trip's going to have fuel. I'm Quick Trip now with my fuel. That's nice. It's nice to know, nice peace of mind, right?
Yeah. And the technology too is something that can come right back to being on your cell phone or your iPad. Yeah. So your guy wants to check it. He's on the back 40 and wondering if he needs to take the fuel wagon back to the yard. Have we been there yet today? He can simply look at that even without making, that phone call too.
Right.
Yeah. Time's money.
Yeah.
And again, like Matt said, there's a whole another hour we could spend on safety alone.
We haven't even gotten into
but there's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff that really the producer just maybe doesn't know about. That's still a benefit. The fact that they purchase their fuel after they use it versus sitting there with a full tank of fuel that they've had to write a check for, even though they're not going to need it this season.
Yeah.
The ability to know the truck's coming, know when it's coming, the routing. We have visibility to all of that. So there's just a whole plethora of stuff out there that's just kind of cool. And people don't actually recognize it until you get the chance to talk to them about it.
Yeah, and as far as the pricing stuff goes too, I mean, you can do it very traditional like it used to be, where it does get delivered and billed right away. The flexibility of about 3 or 4 other pricing options as well, and one of them being the deferred option, where you pay for it almost like a gas station, almost like a quick trip, where as you use the
20
fuel,
gallons at a time.
yeah, as you use the fuel, we invoice it at the end of the month, and you get a bill for it.
Let's talk lubes. We haven't talked lubes yet, and everybody
Yeah.
forgets about the
Yeah.
fact that we have that too.
I actually didn't know we had that. Actually, that was one of the things you added, so appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Full lineup. We run Cenex, CHS product, all product lines. So anything to do construction and heavy duty ag equipment, diesel motors, all the way down to passenger carrier motor vehicles. So changing the 530 in the wife's minivan. So all of those things, along with we do offer on-farm delivery of those products in bulk and diesel exhaust fluid as well, direct to the farm or end user.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I jumped into kind of our footprint on propane, but I wanted to make sure we kind of shared a little bit of something else that I don't think a lot of folks know, but we, from the lubricants and from the diesel fuel side, with our connections with our suppliers
Mhm.
and some of the infrastructures, we can push those products pretty much anywhere in the continental U.S.
Correct.
So just for an example, we're working with a customer. Matt was working with a customer this morning that's going to set up some drilling operations, and it's going to be in Illinois. Illinois or Illinois? It's Illinois, right? I don't.
Sure.
Oh boy.
Savant.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
We
Ding,
need
ding,
to-
ding.
But anyway, over there south of Wisconsin, and then Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska. So, and that's actually a benefit, as they can work with one person to do all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the folks, even these farming operations, as they're moving into multiple states, and they think, well, there's not a Nexus elevator there. That's not necessarily what we're bound to from the fuel and the lubricant distribution.
Yeah, and we've had some of that unique stuff. You know, we said doing more with less earlier. I had a farmer not that long ago. He had the opportunity with his in-laws. You know, their farmer operation kind of hit a dead end as far as, you know, their lineage went. But they were 70 some miles away. You know, so we were able to set up AFD fuel delivery at both places. So when he got to one area to work, the fuel was there. So on and back and forth, one supplier, one bill. And that's just 70 miles. I mean, you know, like Lee mentioned, we can, go states. So basically wherever we have terminal advantage for Cenex products, we can let her rip.
Awesome. Cool.
Yep.
You want to go down this rabbit hole, Chad? You're talking about going down rabbit holes, Lee.
Yep.
I'm thinking that you added this one, unless the Savant,
I could be the
Chad, added this one. But where does propane come from, and why is it hard to sometimes get?
Yeah.
I did throw that one in there actually just to make sure we shared that, because a lot of people just know it's in the tank in the backyard or it's at the bar. And I would say 90% of the population, that's really all they need to know is it's out there. But you hear 3-4 years ago, you heard all the crisis of dryers and swine operations running out of propane or providers running out of propane. So I think it's important for people to understand why that happens. It's not just because we didn't do our job. There's a whole lot behind it. So I'll keep it to the top 10 feet of the rabbit hole, but we got time. That works. And I talk fast. So, but propane is a byproduct of two things. It's either a byproduct of refining, or it's a byproduct of crude production out of the ground. So it used to be a waste product. Now we call it a byproduct. So it's one of those things that as you separate a barrel of oil out, whether it's naturally out of the ground or at the refinery, it's a portion of what that is. So, and then once it gets out of the ground or out of that refinery, they got to do something with it. So propane is placed either in about two places that we care about. One is in caverns underground in Kansas. Some people may be familiar with Conway storage, which all of our propane coming from the south starts in Kansas. And then propane is also stored in tanks due to all the refineries down in the Houston Gulf Coast market. What has changed, though, it used to be the Iowa, the upper Midwest, and Minnesota was where everybody sent their propane to be sold. That was the market. Everybody in the propane industry made their money in dryer season, and they made their money in the winter, cold weather, and they sent it all up here because that's where it's cold. As the market has turned into a global market, they have now shifted to where they can make money all year long, and that's pushing the product to export facilities in the Gulf Coast. So now our propane is moving away from us. And that's, again, that's important because now we kind of have to beg for it to come our direction. Same thing in reverse is with Canadian propane. They used to send it from the north down on the railroad tracks to get to us. And so we were kind of the market, and Canada and America kind of, tried to compete with each other to push propane into the upper Midwest. And now they have built their export facilities over in the Vancouver area, and all of that stuff is going west.
Yep.
So our propane is going away from us, and it has become a business to where actually I think in the grain terms, they call it the basis, but we call it the index.
Yeah.
But the money you pay for a propane up here is now more of a differential because they want to make more if they have to send it this way.
And to give you guys a little bit of a shocker on that, I think the last thing that we went to, the number that we heard is in the lower to mid 70 percentile of the whole product is getting exported. Is that correct?
wow.
Am I?
It's and growing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and growing. So
Wow.
I mean, when we talk about exports, a lot of times everybody kind of gets stuck in the mud of, oh, okay, so a lot of it's leaving. I mean, you guys talk in the world of crop nutrients and stuff like that, and how
Right.
that stuff moves around.
Right.
I mean, 70% of a gross national product is getting thrown out the door basically.
So where's that go then? I mean,
Yeah.
where's the biggest places that's going to?
Great question. As America has increased their crude production,
Well, we're a net exporter for the
Yep.
first time in a long time.
yeah,
Yep.
100%, and we are, and propane has become that way too because that's as we make more crude, you make more propane. But a lot of that is going to a couple of different places. Europe is a good one. So everything kind of like grain moves, everything out of the Gulf is going over to
To the east,
to Europe.
and then Pacific
everything-
Northwest is all going west.
Yep, all going to the Asian markets and those things. There's a little bit that goes down into the South America when they have their winters, which is kind of nice. That's during our summertime, so there's some stuff that moves that way then. But it's moved into those three areas, primarily the same places that grain is going, those same channels. So yeah, so then what we have to defend ourselves from that, right? I mean,
yeah.
because the last thing I want to do is look a Nexus member in the eye and say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with your ag operations. Your swine's at risk, your grain's at risk because we couldn't perform. So we do a lot of work, and sometimes not for free, to go align ourselves with people that actually do have that storage. We align ourselves with carriers that can flex for us, and a variety of carriers that can move, just to be able to protect those instances, because they're not going to get any better. This winter was probably lulled us to sleep because dry grain and warm winter didn't really set us up for thinking about that anymore.
But it's also a good point when you're talking about that. I mean, a lot of the guys that I'm talking to right now are thinking that LP is going to be absolutely tanked in price because of the fact that there wasn't much use last year, and something that we can definitely see that is different than it was 10 years ago is that recovery process would be there, and we'd probably be swimming in it, where the export process now is just like they're licking their chops. They've got more to.
Oh,
they've got more to
that's
sell.
easy money
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, stockpile, it would just stockpile and stockpile and stockpile. And we'd get to the point where it's just like, we're going to have to give it away to get it off the truck because we're bursting.
Wrong.
Yeah. So I mean, it produces another big challenge for Lee to try to go out there and kind of outguess or help with that market base and be competitive. But it's ever more so becoming important to have good partnership, good business sense, and being able to out there, and then building allocations. Another thing that we could probably get down in another foot of the rabbit hole, but is another big thing for when you have that year where we're looking at rain every day here now. So it's like, we're probably going to have a drier season this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that year. That was rough for some guys. I mean, I know a handful of guys that from a lot of different suppliers, there's there's some suppliers in the area, and it's like to the point where a couple of them, they had to quit combining.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, I don't have any gas for a week. I can't go. Like even at home, farming, it's like, God, we got enough to keep the dryer going. There's a few times where it's just like, I think it was sucking on fumes when the guy shows up, and that's a tough day when all of a sudden it's like, sorry, we got to shut the dryer down and we're going to have to do something different.
And unfortunately, we did really well on that year as a company, as our legacy company before we became Nexus. And we were able to work with our guys and keep them going. There was a few days where it got basically to the bottom of the barrel. I think that it was everybody, right? But since that day too, and now even with Lee on board, we're always kind of preparing for and spending time and efforts on when that situation can become at hand again. So we've taken steps in storage and efficiencies and everything in that aspect. We've got monitors now on LP tanks that we didn't have in 09 when you guys are referencing that year. So we'll be able to get a snapshot before our LP drivers ever even leave the shop in the morning of, all right, who needs LP and who needs it first.
I think of that selfishly on our end for our guys that have for fertilizer tanks, right?
Yeah.
If we were able just to pull up on our, John's getting low.
Better get out there.
Get out there and fill them up, right?
Yep.
That'd be sweet.
That would be.
So selfishly, I want that.
Well,
Come see us.
You can play in that. You can take me to your customers and tell them, look how sweet this is.
This is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Let's do like a little like our weekly call here. Do we want to? Let's kind of jump into like currently what's going on with energy. I don't know what you guys want to start with between the couple different ideas we threw out there, but
yeah, I'll let Matt kick it off, and then I'll fill in a little if there's any gaps at the end.
Sure. Yeah. So diesel fuel, it's kind of been, I know it's kind of the salesman approach when I say this, and I'm not really meaning it to be, but it's been a heck of a roller coaster ride. We didn't get the pullback seasonally that we thought we were going to. I mean, at least not when they typically come. We did get a fairly decent pullback in the diesel fuel world in the heating oil stuff in about that first to second week of January. Quite a few guys took advantage of it then for some long-term contracts. But it was just one of those things where everybody is hoping for. I don't know if it's an election year kind of vibe or if it's just that number wasn't quite there. But there's a lot of folks that only have a portion of their diesel fuel purchased or locked in for the year. And time will tell. I'm not really sure that isn't a good approach to it. But definitely right now, looking at kind of having your finger on the trigger.
What's a typical year look like for
like the trend,
in?
It's January high or low or, June, we got trends in like grain where it's like, we want to kind of hit that top of the trend.
We have those seasonalities that we watch for, but those used to be predictable and severe,
right?
And they have, with other impacts to the energy, again, the global piece of things, those have kind of flattened out. And sometimes you may get the dip, but you may climb so high before you get there that your dip is still $1 higher than you were 2 months ago. So it's a little deeper than that. There are a lot of traditions that used to say between Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day, you bought your diesel fuel, and I think that was really, that's just when farmers aren't doing anything else.
I always thought I had a few farmers that always wanted to set the reminder to it, so that way they buy their wives flowers the same day that they went out and
there you go.
Remember 2 things at once, right?
Hey, about 3,000 gallons of diesel. Here's some roses.
Exactly. Right, works for me either way.
We'll throw the roses in if you buy 3,000 gallons.
Good marketing strategy.
But I don't know. I mean, this year too, we had a lot of things. Obviously everybody sees the stuff that's going on, in the Middle East. So it seemed that you were hearing something Gaza Strip related or something like that. Every time that we were getting on a position, we felt like we were getting within 5 or 10 cents of it being a really good market buy. Something like that came out. I think there's any giant conspiracy theory behind it as much as it just was.
We had that in fertilizer too.
Yeah.
It's like, boat sunk.
Great. Somebody hit a bridge.
Yeah, something's going on with the canal. So
for sure.
I mean, it's just one of those things where I think that, to go back to your original question there, Brady, a lot of guys are starting to see that relationship drive with us and being able to look at the markets and purchase, 50-60% when it's just a make sense number in that time frame, and then when you're skin a fat cat or your big home run stuff with, another 25% whenever you feel it, or whenever we can see that, and then maybe come back in that July, August market time frame and lock the rest of it in. But there are years when you get to that, second week of January or first week of February, and it just makes sense. The number makes sense.
Yeah, we've, this year it's kind of setting up to be more traditional. We've got our suggestions today from an operator standpoint, for our customers is to keep your tanks full and get them full, both propane and fuel right about now.
For sure.
So we're moving some product, for even trying to suggest moving some propane out for dryer season now. At least get the tanks topped off. Most tanks are full from last year because they just ended that way. But if there's an opportunity to pack some stuff in a tank, now's the time to maybe be thinking about it. But one of the things we do with these markets that when these opportunities come along, and you mentioned it, layering, a lot of folks they do that a little bit with the grain. They do that a little bit with the energy. And I don't think they do that maybe as much with agronomy. It's just kind of pick the day, and that's the day you buy, and that's the day you lock it in.
And you guys just train everybody to do it.
Yeah, just lock it all in, because usually what it is that, well, if you don't lock it in today, it's going to go up a bunch by, it's going to 20% increase by the, in season.
Mainly for the fertilizer too. I mean, last few years on the fertilizer side, August first prices are usually coming out, and it's like the amount of guys that we've got trained to get a hold of us at that time of the year, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, for the good part, right? I mean, you're taking advantage of a low price, just like they would on any other commodity. They're taking advantage. Well, probably a high price when they're selling, low price when they're buying.
Sure.
Get your low price in, and like we say the word train, but it's like, well, either they've been burned in the past, or they've seen it in the past where, hey, we had a good price here and now it's here. And you could,
especially the last 3 years.
Yeah, you could have saved
$300-400 a ton.
You could have saved some dollars if you just bought it all here. Then and it's a common trend. It's not this as much anymore, right?
But you got the same challenges as we do. It comes down to transportation.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we can get it locked in now, and I know this is how many tons we're going to need to do our job in the fall. Same with you guys on the LP side. It's like, well, then I can get tanks figured out or terminals figured out, tons dedicated to me, transport. I mean, that's a lot of it is we have all the product. It's just, do we get it there fast enough for this?
Sure. And one of the advantages we have over the agronomy side of things is we have a market that's moving all day long, every day.
Yeah.
And we also have pipelines that are pushed, right past our doorstep. So, for some of our producers, as they grow, this is not meaning that there's a better or worse producer, but as producers get larger and have more volume to, I won't say play with, but to manage, the opportunity to do a couple thousand gallons at this moment, when we say, it's not maybe as good as it's going to get, but it's better than you paid a year ago. Let's take a layer so we know we've got something. And we can move that in over and over and over, and then the transportation just gets set up for when they need it. They don't have to take it. We can do a lot of things way out in the future. Same with propane. I mean, I've always said, I always like the get rich slow method, but it's a little more of a guarantee, because if you can lock in your inputs lower than a year ago and market your outputs to something equal to or higher, then every year is going to be a good year.
Yeah, and it also, going back to what I said earlier, mentioned earlier, being able to not be the driver salesman anymore and just be the sales person going out to the farm. We've also really had a chance to talk about the layers, talk about how it goes, and relate it back to guys. And everybody's different, right? You guys see it too. Whether it's somebody that's worried about how it's going to fit into their cash flow, the time of year that they want to spend money, we see that in the ag and the commercial side of the year, residential too. I mean, we have a budget plan for LP. So there's lots of different things that drive different folks to the way that they want to spend their money. But the way that we approach the energy world and get after it is we're able to figure out what that is, build that relationship with that person, and come back to how they want to buy it. And it might be spreading it out over 6 months or 4 different layers, or it might just be a guy that really sees the advantage in wanting to spend money on December 30th. There's lots of different ways to do it. And we got them all.
We're talking all about buying it and selling it and the markets, and it's really not a marketing proposal or podcast, I don't believe. It's probably more of an awareness. But there's a lot of other things in energy that's happening more than the markets themselves. Everybody's heard of the renewables. Everybody's been subject to the last 6 years of electric cars. People, laws in New York that say you can't install a gas cook stove anymore. I mean, there's a lot of things really opposing what we do as a division.
Yeah. And then consumers asking for those things too.
Right.
Oh yeah. I get up in your guys' in the neck of the woods, your legacy area. And, when I start knocking on doors and tell them I'm, it must be right behind somebody else driving a truck. I say, I'm here to talk about energy. Oh, you're selling solar panels. I mean, so
it's huge.
It's really expanded. The world of energy doesn't just mean diesel fuel and propane anymore. So
you meet somebody in the airport, and what do you do for a living? And you're almost scared to tell them because, I sell dinosaur bones. Right. I mean, That's-
I sell
that's our-
propane and propane accessories.
Yeah, I haven't resorted to that one yet, but I do.
Chad included that one down.
Yes,
our
only
notes here.
only savants are willing to promote that piece.
Ding.
But yeah, it's a moving market, and 10 years from now, it's going to be different. And so not only is our challenge to serve our customers
For sure.
today, but we've got to figure out how to get Nexus Energy positioned for what's to come and or what's not to come.
Oh, yeah,
because we can go put a charging station in, and then as the last 6 months have told us, that's already in a decline. So it's hard to pick what's going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and then like this renewable fuels thing, that is just a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was that 2 weeks ago? Some of the stuff for the sustainable aviation fuel kind of was brought out, and
which we will be having a podcast on coming up.
Yeah, in July
on the what score?
The GREET model.
Yeah,
The CI score.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we'll have a new
for sure.
we'll have a podcast coming up talking about that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's big. I mean, my son's in the aviation industry, and they do a lot of projects for airports, and that's one of their big ones is how to build the infrastructure to receive and distribute some of this renewable or sustainable aviation fuel. I got to call it the right name.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Who gets there first is going to almost a race.
And it's even stuff down to the smaller level too. A year and a half or so ago, I had an opportunity to partner up with and learn from some of our folks in the energy business to the north. So I went up into Minnesota and really had a good time learning from those folks. And I mean, you sit down and talk to them, and now we're being able to expand into that area. At that point in time, you could literally tell that everybody was running a different direction, even on mandates of bios and ethanol based stuff. And that's kind of starting to. Everybody has a different idea and opinion on it, so
we're
something
just
we
fun.
battle.
It's fun up there.
Yeah,
It is.
It is.
Fun everywhere.
I'll tell you, I've had a lot of fun so far. So
Be ready for the curveball. Pretty much is pretty much what it is.
Pretty much. Yeah, because then you throw in an election year this year too,
Right.
and what can change and what might change or not change, or vice versa. It's just like, well, where do we go?
Yeah, it's an impact of some sort, whether it's up or down. We don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't know, Lee, if you want to jump into this, or Matt, but you both can.
Sure.
What makes Nexus Energy, different than our other competitors?
I'll take that one first because I've shifted a little bit of what our focus used to be, legacy, 5-10 years ago, to what I want it to be today. So my intentions are that we are not someone that goes out and sells a gallon of anything. I tell you a story to support that. I got my first introduction back in that 89 area, working at a full service gas station. And I carried this, and Matt's heard this 1,000 times already, but you go out on the bell dings, and I'm showing my age because,
Oh yeah, you're talking about a bell ding.
Walter Cronkite.
you said full service.
Did they have the uniform?
Wait, somebody
like
came out?
The old double bubble with the COOP.
Yeah,
and the blue,
the white everything.
pinstripe. No white hat.
This guy Lee lives and breathes energy. man.
Absolutely.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. I won't go into
His
examples.
initials are LP, so
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, that was odd.
Are you the
coincidence.
first person to bring that up to him? Is that
Yeah,
the
no,
question?
I caught on to that a long time
Okay.
ago.
I hope not. I saw that the other day, and I was like, "There's no way. There's no way this is a coincidence."
They always said when I had my own business, I was going to be LP's LP, and they're going to think that was some kind of Roman numeral. Or something. But back in what I learned, and I guess what I hope lasts, because there's you've been talk forever about loyalty and relationships and how valuable or important they are anymore. But when you went out on the drive to pump gas, and you had Margaret or Mildred or Harold or whoever, and they needed 5 gallons of gas put in their car, and they could care less about that 5 gallons of gas. What they cared about was whether you streaked their windshield when you washed it, whether you checked the tires, whether you made change and counted it back correctly, whether you checked the oil, whether you noticed anything, and if you talked to them and had a conversation, because they were probably just coming down there to get out of the house. So that taught me that it's not about the product. It's about how you support the product and what goes along with the product. So what we're trying to do is to find all of those windshield wipings and tire checkings and things that we can do as an energy division to add to the gallon. And I think we're off to a good start with that. So what we're trying to do is get relationships built. That's first, because you got to have trust, and that only comes with a relationship. Then trying to learn how they have done it in the past and how well it's worked from a customer standpoint. and then just get involved in managing that for them. So we don't want to be on their doorstep every day asking for a sale. We want to call them when there's an opportunity that fits their organization's needs. And we're getting, we wish we had more time for that, but as people are, we're hearing more comments of, I don't care if you're the cheapest, just make sure we do it right. Or, I know, Matt, Eric, Lee, Corey, anybody on our team is now suddenly has a value, and we're defending that value. We want to be worth more, and we want to be able to be proud of how we're doing it. And so, because you drive down the interstate, and our industry has gone with whoever has the largest sign closest to the interstate, tallest into the air wins. And so we're living in an industry where price has just become the easy way to sell our product. And I'm just refusing. I'm hoping we can find a way to just take the price to the end of the conversation. There is a number that we want to be worth, but it's and there's a limit to that. We can't just set any price that we want, but we want to make that the last thing we have to discuss. Here's what the strategy. Let us go help implement it, and dare you to find somebody else that can do it.
You know what I think of? I think of my two energy connections here. I think of Casey's, with their pizza. And then I also think of Quick Trip, our friends in Wisconsin. I'm
Quick Star on this side of the border.
I'm a loyal Quick Trip, Quick Star customer, and it is 100% not for what they come out of the pump with. It's exactly what's inside. It's like they don't even care that you come to fill up; they want you inside.
Yep,
and it's weird to think that it's really just a gas station convenience store, but it's something way better inside, and that's what I think where we want to get to, right? I mean,
yeah, and we look at it too. We just talked about trends and different times when you can buy. Well, if you don't have a relationship with your fuel salesman or your fuel driver, if you don't kind of you get into the trenches with it a little bit, yeah, I mean, you could call 5 people in a day and make the decision based off from who the cheapest one of those 5 is. But nobody says that 3 weeks from now is going to be 50 cents cheaper than where that was. And that's where that. Taking it back to what makes their operation click and being able to help make that decision together is a good thing. I mean, I have conversations with the guys. We'll talk for 2.5 months about when the best time is to buy, and we'll hit a number that's close, and they choose to still buy hand to mouth because that's what makes sense for their operation for that time frame. So yeah, definitely want to be the what's inside thing versus just trying to drive by with a big sign.
Awesome.
And then some of the things that are outside of Nexus that we also do, we select suppliers and vendors carefully. We've got a lot of folks that would love to haul our product to us or for us. But we look to the ones that can perform in those crunch times or that can perform well if they're taking a transport of propane into a producer's field or a producer's dryer and there's equipment parked in the way that they're going to not get rammy about it. They're going to represent us very well. So we're aligning ourselves with not necessarily the cheapest broker supplier on our end either. We want the ones that are going to perform like we want to perform.
Well, and the other part, we want to make sure that we don't have any issues.
100%.
I've seen that in the past where guys are trying to find the cheapest fuel possible for their customers, and it happens at times, and even sometimes even no fault to your own.
Right.
And that happens everywhere. That happens in agronomy. That happens.
It happens in agronomy. Yeah. Yeah. All of a sudden it's like you get one poor lot number or something. And it's like, yeah, that kind of hurt the situation.
And that even comes back to the product that we deliver in the diesel fuel world. I mean, it's a Cenex premium diesel fuel. And I would say, looking across the industry, at least for our footprint, it's the most expensive additive package that you can put in diesel fuel. But the claim and the goal behind it is that it's a product that isn't going to open the door up to having those issues that will maybe cost you some downtime or some dollars.
Yep. So I'm going to pair these two together here, but what are some of these opportunities that we have going forward? And then maybe do you guys want to talk about some of the challenges and roadblocks stopping us from that or that you're seeing right now?
Yeah. Challenges and roadblocks are really opportunities for us, or that's how we look at them. We've got a whole new geography. And like we talked before, so, one of our roadblocks, so to speak, is we would love to be driving to Austin and Rochester and Alden with propane. And we just don't have the means to be, there's people better suited that could serve those customers better today than we can. And I don't want to walk in there and ask them to be served less. So there's just a roadblock of time and investment we need to get to happen. Some of the other stuff is some of the costs of doing business are going up. That's not true to energy only, but the safety components that you have to adhere to, the equipment cost, those have all hit the same inflationary times that everything else has. So lucky for us, the product itself is not escalated. So we don't have that, but just the cost of getting it out there, taking care of your people, having a good equipment, doing some of those extra things for the customers. Those are all stuff that isn't as cheap to do as it may have once been. But that's kind of the main thing. And then just finding new ways to connect to producers. I'm sticking on the challenges and roadblocks first. We'll go into the opportunities next. But
no, that's fine.
But we have dialed phone numbers to try to share what we have to say for a very long time. And there's a lot of newer, quicker, more effective ways as we get more and more people that want to know about the markets and want to know when those opportunities are. Those opportunities may only last half a day. And if you got 300 people that need to know about it, you can't dial fast enough and you can't get off the phone fast.
Right, you can't.
No way you can.
We have that trouble at times with fertilizer. It's like, hey, I'm
on the phone. Chad, call that person. Go.
Yep.
And I mean, even if, we do add more staff, at the end of the day, I mean, you still have that challenge of when is enough and you can't have, 2 customers per one person.
Right.
And so it's just one of those situations where definitely being able to reach in mass some of those situational things, which is also some of that background work that I was referencing earlier. You free it up, you get your market buys in, you talk to guys, where they want to be at. It makes it a lot easier to be able to push that button when you need to.
Well, and that's why we're doing things like this, Facebook posts,
for sure,
text messaging program, stuff
Our
like
beautiful faces on this podcast.
Sure, let's go with that.
Nobody told me there was a camera. So.
You're the third person to say that on this thing so far.
That's all right. The makeup person did good, I thought.
Yeah.
So.
I think another roadblock too, you guys see it in your side of the thing too. I mean, we've got folks that can put some seed in the ground and take it out in a fashion, right? I mean, it's quick.
Oh yeah.
So that have to, even though there's less gallons per acre, which is another challenge or roadblock, you could say, you get a 62-foot field cultivator, it gets some stuff done in a hurry. So
24 row high speed, and they're done by the time you're done filling the tender.
Right? Yep. So, I mean, that is something where we're using maybe less gallons per acre, but they're using it at a rate that makes speed. A challenge for the business in general. But we're definitely working with the customer on storage and our logistics and delivery processes have changed considerably.
From the opportunity side, I mean, again, we could go 2 hours on that, but some of the stuff that we're really excited about, I mean, the main number one is just Nexus itself. What we can now have as an opportunity down that we're Nexus, with the network we've got of folks, the geography we are blessed to serve. That's pretty cool. We're really excited about that, and even just working with our internal locations and getting those folks set up with fuel. It's just fun for them to be able to see that they have an energy person now. So we're really trying to get designed and amped up to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. But that's our number one deal. The other thing that we're finding as an opportunity is, as we all know from the ag side, it's seasonal, somewhat Mother Nature driven. So if it's a dry year, no crop, we're at a deficit. If it's a warm winter, no heat, we're at a deficit. So we're looking our opportunities into either ag supporting customers or prospects or industrial prospects, but there's a lot of small town, local well drillers, transportation companies, manufacturing that has a need for lubes and fuels. And we've probably done a not as good a job as we should have in focusing on that segment of energy, because that really supports the division of energy. If you can make that more of a year-round ratable type of a approach. So we're diverting a little bit of our gaze when the farmers don't want to, when they're busy doing something else, we'll go chase some other things that allow us to round out what an energy year looks like.
And a lot of this stuff on the I wouldn't necessarily even call it the smaller level, but maybe on the unseen level is how diversified that our agricultural folks have became. There are a lot of folks that we deal with every day selling seed and buying grain and filling up their dryer tank that also have a business or support a business or have
there's a lot of guys like trucking on the side, or they have excavating business or something like that. I mean, those are the easy ones.
And it's cool that they view those as two real separate entities, a lot of the guys, but also not very often do we have that conversation when we're going to the farm of, hey, how's it going? But we've been able to flex our staff of sales folks to be able to bring that to our our attention. We're creating awareness, doing stuff like this, that we have that availability. And then we're able to go out and kind of set them up and knock them down. We've had a lot of success in it.
Well, and we talked about that earlier about kind of team selling, across platforms. Because I mean, there's some things that I know about so-and-so's operation that you don't, but you might know a few things from your dealings with them on his fuel side.
Yeah. And that was going to be my last opportunity to talk about, is just the ability for us to connect all across our divisions. So it starts with internal, we need to let everybody know what this division represents. And then it also matters externally, so that anybody can walk into anywhere that has a Nexus sign out in front of it and ask who they need to talk to about energy. And there's a pretty confident and proud answer behind it.
We kind of went through what's going on. Do you guys want to give your recommendations today on, current refined fuels and propane?
You bet. I want to hear what the salesman says.
Take one out of Lee's book and say that, well, I never really like to tell people how that goes, because it can always bite you. But I mean, we all know that, right? I mean, this year's definitely going to be one of those things where everybody's kind of not just looking at the next week. They're looking at 3 months from now, with the election year coming on and all the things that are going on in the Middle East. Really like the idea of folks taking layers this year just for that reason. Going back to January 1. Since January 1, we've had a number that's ran up about 50 cents in the heating oil diesel fuel world, and then came back down almost 53 cents. I mean, it's been a situation where it's ran up, ran down, stayed in the middle. But that's a big gap in the, when you're talking about percentage of the dollar per gallon. And so it isn't one of those things where you can kind of stay back on your heels and say, oh man, it's going to be here in July versus where it is now. So if it's a number that makes sense to your operation, it makes sense to take a layer. So I know that was kind of the very general, vague way of saying
Love
it.
I'll give you.
Love it. It gives you enough wiggle room to stay
I'll
out of
let Lee
trouble.
get into it, but
Yeah,
I do think now, and if I had to actually, stick my neck out, I would say now in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then probably again somewhere in that July, August is definitely a time frame to be looking at it.
It's kind of like when we get the answer, a couple years ago, not this year, but where's fertilizer going to go? Well, do you want the long answer? Or do you want the not so long answer?
I'll tell you 3 times the next 10 days. I'll give you a different answer.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll put the answer out there that does stick my neck out a little bit to where I could be wrong. But, our suggestion today is that you end your spring season from a fuel perspective with your tanks full.
Yeah.
With the carry and basis actually in the market, you can't, today's the best price you can do
Cash
for anything in
better.
2024. So when you're done, when you're done with planting and whatever else you're doing through the spring, fill your tanks up, which should be happening, over the next 2-3 weeks. I would say by now, with the markets and the pricing that's out there, you should have 30 to 40% of your fall needs maybe layered in. And then set a target, maybe 10, 15 cents from where we're at today to do the next half. So another 50. And then get yourself 70 to 90% covered by, as Matt said, end of June, sometime between now and then go farm. Then go have fun, go to kids' baseball games and let that piece work. But this year, the market is telling you to buy it now as much as you can. But we've got some numbers that are equal to or less than what they were a year ago, which is good for, every a feel-good moment, and to avoid any Middle East catastrophes, supply catastrophes, get a piece. But then let us help you find the time to get the rest of it, and then we'll be done, and we'll be looking in. Propane, same way. If you happen to have a dryer bank of tanks or a large dryer tank, holler at us to talk about getting those full. We're not quite yet ready to recommend locking in fall dryer gas or winter, but that will be coming out in June for, just because people are going to want to do something. So
For sure.
That's this year's suggestion. There's years I would have said you should have had it all bought already.
Right.
But we're supporting that at the moment. And I think we're going to be pretty accurate with that. Feels good about it.
Sweet. Is there anything else we missed that you guys want to talk about, or?
I'd say we covered a lot of ground. I'm not sure. I'm sure, we're sales guys at heart, just like you, so we can talk about our product. But yeah, just like I said, just reach out to us. Anybody listening, please just find us. We love to talk about what we do and how we can do it, and most importantly, how we can do it for you.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're all yours.
100%.
Cool. And well, Chad, I don't know if you being the savant you are, you put in here anything we missed, because I don't know anything about energy business. Clearly you do, because you wrote all these notes and you know quite a bit, because, you know, as much as this thing is 100% scripted, it's not.
It's not.
You had a lot of notes here, being the savant you are. I just want to thank you guys for coming out and doing this. I know it's busy time for both of us.
All of us.
Sure.
Get a couple rain breaks in there. If anybody listening is looking for their energy needs, get a hold of us. Any one of your agronomy advisors or anybody else at Nexus.
Yeah.
And reach out and we'll get you in touch with these guys in the sales team here on at Nexus. So Matt Katcher, Lee Parker, thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah.
Where you can get our podcast is pretty much anywhere you can listen to your podcast. We also have a player on our website, nexus.coop/podcast. Check us out on our social media pages. It's pretty much Nexus Cooperative or Nexus Co-op on Facebook, Instagram, X, which Twitter, and then YouTube, which is where you can view our awesome studio and our lovely faces. And then I just want to, Chris, I don't know how much you can zoom into this, but Chad did put in.
It was the meme of the podcast.
Hank Hill there.
Strickland Propane.
and got Hank Hill here. So thank you, Lee, for being our Hank Hill today.
Yep.
And
had to put the hat on because he's got more hair than I do.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.